We've all heard of phobias: fear of spiders, vertigo at the top of a mountain, or even fear of enclosed spaces. But did you know that there are even more unusual fears? Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of unusual phobias. And believe me, some of them may surprise you. Sit back, take a deep breath, or not, because who knows? You may even have a strange phobia you didn't know you had. Let's get to work on our top 10 most unexpected phobias. A phobia that seems to come straight out of a lexical nightmare: the fear of long words. Yes, ironically, the official name for this phobia is a veritable linguistic marathon. Imagine having to explain this fear by describing it. It's like facing your worst nightmare just by naming it. Although it may sound amusing or absurd, this phobia is very real and can cause significant stress for sufferers, especially in contexts where complex words are omnipresent, such as at school or at work. Fortunately, no one has yet invented a word to describe the fear of unpronounceable phobias. Well, not yet? We don't often think about it, but for some people, feet are more than just innocuous appendages. They're a real source of anxiety. Podophobia, or fear of feet, can make any interaction with this part of the body unbearable. Whether it's seeing them, touching them, or even talking about them, podophobes prefer to avoid anything to do with them. Imagine the daily challenges: refusing to go to the beach or avoiding certain types of footwear for fear that they will highlight this terrifying area. A surprising but very real phobia, which reminds us that even the most banal details can become sources of anxiety. You read that right. Cherophobia is the fear of being happy or feeling joy. It may seem counterintuitive, but for sufferers, happiness is associated with the idea that it will be followed by disaster. In other words, it's the fear that too much happiness attracts unhappiness. As a result, cherophobes avoid joyful or festive moments, convinced that they will pay a heavy price later on. It's a very peculiar way of looking at life, but one which, for them, is a strategy of self-protection against possible disappointment. Ironic, isn't it? It's a modern phobia, a direct result of our dependence on technology. Nomophobia is the panic fear of being separated from one's cell phone, whether due to a flat battery, loss of network, or simply being forgotten. Nomophobes can feel intense anxiety at the thought of not being able to check their messages or be reached. With our increasingly connected lives, this phobia has become a true symbol of our times. So, the next time you panic while searching for your phone in your pocket, ask yourself, are you on the road to nomophobia? Did you think garden gnomes were just harmless decorations? Not for everyone. Nanopabulophobia is the irrational fear of these little statues. Their fixed gaze, their motionless smile, their omnipresence in certain gardens. For nanopabulophobes, it's anything but cute. This phobia may seem unlikely, but it's a good example of how seemingly harmless objects can become sources of anxiety. So, if one day you meet someone who changes sidewalks in front of a house adorned with garden gnomes, you'll know why. Pineapples, apples, strawberries. While for most of us these foods evoke freshness and health, for kerpophobes they're synonymous with anxiety. Kerpophobia is the fear of fruit, whether raw or processed. Sometimes it's the textures, the smells, or the idea of eating them that trigger intense anxiety. Imagine having to avoid the fruit and vegetable aisles at the supermarket, or fruit desserts at a dinner party with friends. A phobia that complicates life, but shows once again that fear can lurk where you least expect it. Imagine dreading going to bed every night. Clinophobia is the irrational fear of lying down or going to bed. Sufferers may associate going to bed with negative experiences, such as recurring nightmares or sleep disorders. As a result, they avoid bedtime as much as possible, which can lead to chronic fatigue and impact on their quality of life. An unusual phobia, but one that reminds us just how much our minds can link everyday actions to deep-seated fears. Do you know someone who can't stand the sound of constant chewing or tapping? They could well be suffering from misophonia, an extreme sensitivity to specific sounds. These noises, harmless to most people, trigger intense emotions such as anger or anxiety in misophonists. Imagine not being able to have dinner with your family or work in an open space, without being constantly irritated, a phobia that may seem strange, but is very real and often misunderstood. The navel, a vestige of our bond with our mother, may seem harmless. Yet some people are scared to death of them. This is omphallophobia. This phobia can manifest itself as an aversion to touching or even looking at a navel, whether their own or that of others. Omphalophobes may avoid beaches, swimming pools or any situation where navels are exposed. A surprising fear which shows that even the most innocuous parts of our bodies can become sources of anxiety. Being afraid is unpleasant enough. But to be afraid of being afraid? That's phobophobia. This fear of developing a phobia or feeling fear can create a vicious circle. Every thought becomes a potential trigger, making their daily lives particularly trying. In short, it's the fear of fear itself, a concept that gives you a headache just thinking about it. But don't worry, that doesn't make you a phobophobe. And that's it, we've come to the end of our journey into the sometimes absurd but always intriguing world of phobias. Who'd have thought you could be afraid of feet, belly buttons, or even fear itself? If this video has amused you, taught you something, or even made you think, don't hesitate to leave a little like and share with your friends, especially those who, you're sure, have a phobia that's a bit strange. And if you know of any even more surprising ones, let me know in the comments, I'm always interested. On that note, take care, and see you soon for another dose of curiosity.